Good morning. My name is Tina Kramer, and I am the creator of Simple Learning and the patent pending sound device. I'm here with my friend, Kelley Phipps. Kelley?
I'm Kelley Phipps, and I am the owner of Centerpoint Learning Solutions and the Tutoring Center. I work with adults and kids that struggle with learning or social issues, and to give them a clear foundation and be able to help them move ahead.
For today's episode, Kelley and I decided to dive deep into our own learning differences. So you will see this podcast is a bit of a hodgepodge. We just jumped all around. As you listen to this podcast, we would love your feedback. Have we touched on something that you would like to hear more about? And then we will try to be a little bit more streamlined and a little bit more specific.
Okay, so the things that the sound device makes the difference for just your typical individual that's struggling, in that calling back to attention, is helping an individual be present so that they can move through life and can complete the tasks that are at hand, which have to do with organizing your world, being on time, completing tasks, right? Prioritizing, being able to actually get started, to be able to remember what you're doing, right? To hold that. So having that working memory, that real time in my moment, to be able to set goals. Those are all executive functions, right? And so individuals that struggle with attention struggle with executive functioning because they have difficulty staying in the moment.
So Kelley, when you say executive functioning, tell us a little bit more. So that frontal lobe, are we talking about what happens up here?
I think that's where it all is happening, right? It's part of it is something that we expect from development and age, as individuals grow, right? And you become a more capable individual, being able to make good decisions and all of those things. And we expect that. We know that has to do with that frontal lobe and the development. And as we've learned in research, that takes until, into their 20s now before we feel like individuals can feel like they're fully developed. And that's why we have to be careful about substance abuse and all of those other things. Or substance use for young people, because it affects all of that. Okay. So this disconnect that's happening in our brain, because of the way our synapses are working, right? So the things that make us look like we have attention issues, all right, they definitely affect whether or not that those parts of our brain are actually working together in the way that we want them to, right? So if our synapses are happening in such a way so that we are fully present, and then we're going to see a natural progression towards the ability to do these skills. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I tend to see people now in my practice that are older. Now, when I say older, I'm like college age up to my oldest client was 58. And we adapt. We figure out ways to be able to cope with these challenges. I know for myself, I never got a diagnosis. I never got a diagnosis until I was in my 40s. And I figured out ways to be able to cope. Even now, and I do this work, I use the sound device. But if I'm under stress, like we were just talking before we started the recording, I ended up flying back into Phoenix over the weekend, and I was up at 2 a.m. I didn't get back into Phoenix until 7:30 a.m. Phoenix time. And, I was just tired, and I'm back home, but still haven't been here for a couple weeks. And I found myself walking the rooms of my house. And it's like, I know there's something in this room that I was going to get, but I can't remember why I'm here right now. And my morning started out that way, or like I said, it was morning. I've been awake a long time, but it was morning, and I found myself. So people can understand when you refer to executive functioning, what that looks like in our everyday, because I know in my own family, there were always excuses made. It was, well, you're just spacing out. Oh, you're just tired. Oh, you're just this. When in all actuality, there's a reason why we experience this scattered behavior.
Right, right. And the thing is that honestly, and I think that this might be why I haven't taken the time to investigate and to be able to put all of the terminology to what our experiences are. Because in the end, it doesn't matter what is actually happening in my brain. It's the fact that it's impairing what I'm able to do. And so real time, knowing when I'm where all of those little synapses are working, all that stuff doesn't change the reality of the moment. And in the moment, I've forgotten my keys. Where are they? Right. I have an appointment and I'm not out the door. Or I have a report that's due and it's not complete. Right. So many real-time things that affect us as students, but then they affect us in real life, because in the end, this doesn't go away without intervention. As adults, what we would call executive function disorder, which that is a real thing. It manifests oftentimes from individuals that have attention issues. Okay, that disorder has a foundation, but it grows because of habits that we create. Okay. And whether it's.
So Kelley, I want to add something really quick at that point. Mm-hmm. So we see people and we work with people that have challenges around time. The thing I hear the most is I'm always late, or I didn't get that thing done. Mm-hmm. Now, it's interesting, and I've only met one other person like this. Okay, so talking about those habits and how they're put in place, oftentimes families realize, and we'll see these habits, these symptoms manifest in families. So this is true in my family. However, with me, I almost always will never be late. And when I'm experiencing a disorientation around time, I show up early. The funny thing is I've shown up to appointments like a day early. Like early. Okay, so time in my family was a huge thing. In order to be on time, you had to be 10 minutes early. So we were the family that walked into church 15 minutes early, where appointments 15 minutes early, all of that. Right. Almost to the point for me, there was huge amounts of anxiety and fear about being late. So I am compulsively almost early or on time. And so it actually manifests both ways when you don't have a clear awareness of time, or we can even call that time blindness.
An individual that really, really is struggling with that, with time itself, is really struggling with the idea of prioritizing and the standard. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. I used to wouldn't have been able to totally identify that, because this time thing was a huge one for me. I actually can tell you when my development occurred enough that I got this awareness of time. The other thing that is so sad about it is that if you have time blindness, I did, and then other people don't know that you do, and you don't know that you do, it causes so much stress, because you see everybody else, some showing out on time, being late, it not being that big of a deal. And I couldn't understand why I had so much anxiety around time. And I didn't even know what time blindness meant.
Yeah, right.
The other thing, when I work with clients as well, is they tend to live in the future. Now, there's a few different reasons as to why they're always thinking ahead. If you're a person, above average intelligence, so many of our clients are, and then if you struggle with self-esteem issues, or some of the issues that go along with, and we'll get into that more, but with having a learning difference, then you're always looking ahead to try to make sure you're making your way through the minefields that are coming. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, or you don't have the stamina to stay in the moment, because that looking ahead, always moving ahead, is because you're not staying with the task to completion. Right. I don't know if you've noticed that with your clients or not, but it's this need to move on because I can't stay put to see it through. Right. And that looks like one thing as a child. As an adult, those are the people that start things, but then somebody else has to come in and finish them. And there's a role for that in our world. There's a definite role, right?
Okay.
That's part of why people that I guess I call them your movers or your shakers, though, if you remember those personality assessments that you can take, and they're going to put you into a quadrant. Okay.
Yeah.
And there's lots of them out there, and I've taken them and done them for lots of different boards and all sorts of stuff. Right. But invariably, I'm one of these individuals that's a dominant. So and lots of people that have attention issues are like this, right? We're dominant. We're charismatic, right? And we're the starters, but we don't finish things. Okay? Because we've started and we're moving on, right? They're not the ones that are going to stick with it till the end. And if you want to be a well-rounded individual, you can't function like that all the time, not in every aspect of your life. You have to stick in, you have to be willing to get dirty and finish it through, right? To be the starter and the finisher. But that aspect of things is it's a hard place to be, right? Because again, like you said, with your time blindness, you see everyone else and you wonder, why are you not? What is it about you that is keeping you from being able to complete what you've started?
Well,
right?
and this is a big reason why I wanted to do this podcast with you, so that we could just raise awareness.
Mm-hmm.
There, just that fact alone, the lack of understanding around learning differences, and then I'm going to use the word ridicule.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for real. Mm-hmm.
That happens to us as we go through life. Whereas if somebody understood what you and I are trying to raise awareness about, it doesn't become a self-esteem issue anymore. It doesn't become, oh, there's something wrong with me, I'm bad.
Right.
It
Right.
moves into as simple as, oh, this is how your mind works, here's what we can do about it, here's the information you need, and then the changes that you can make, and then you can leverage strengths against weaknesses.
Well, and that's just it. I love that. Leverage strengths and weaknesses, because I think any successful company is going to, you're hoping to bring in a varied group of individuals with strengths and weaknesses. And you need to have that person that predominantly is able to push ahead and has big ideas and can move. And you need those people that can come in behind them and plot it out till it gets done, right? It would be great if we could say that I want it all. And that's honestly, I mean, I guess if you talk about me, of course I do want it all. But reality is I've been made in a certain way, and I have strengths and weaknesses. Now I need to shore up my weaknesses, but my strengths are still going to be my strengths, right? They're still going to be my strengths. And so I need to be able to embrace my strengths and recognize my weaknesses and do what I need to so that my weaknesses don't become my downfall, right? They just happen to be a less of a strength, right? And I feel like that, being aware of that from a teaching standpoint for classrooms, from a leadership standpoint for organizations, for a business standpoint, for managers, to be able to recognize that, they're going to see so much more productivity from their entire their entire workforce, right? Or classroom.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. I think it definitely is key. But I think to start with for us and seeing that, okay, if we recognize first and foremost, what are some of the skills that we oftentimes see that we are lacking if we are this group of individuals that think fast. I don't know if we want to put a label to it, if we're these latent ADD people, whatever, right? We're going to find that if we recognize what are the areas that we might struggle with, right? And then actively seek a solution to the struggle. And one is, which I believe is a sound device. That is one, right? But we build habits. And so just the use of the sound device alone is not going to change the habit. And same thing with any type of, focusing skills that we learned, right? That in of itself is not going to change the habit.
Right. It does make a difference. I know when I developed the sound device, I said, this is a teaching tool. And it's unique to the wearer, but to gain that awareness of where your focus is and then how to bring that in balance with the physical body is the goal. So when I talk to a client, I'll tell them, they'll say, how long do I wear this? And I say, well, that depends on you, because everybody is unique, but it's not intended to be something that's worn forever. Usually my clients will wear it for a period of time. They get to the point they understand where their focus is, how it works. The sound device is put away, and then it's kept for times when they get under stress. Mm-hmm. Then they might need the support again, and they'll pull it back out. One of the things I want to bring up, Kelley, that we touch on a little bit is also like clumsiness. Our clients, again, I have people come in, they're like, I'm clumsy. I don't know my left from my right. We mentioned this on another podcast. I used to joke about the fact I could walk across literally flat ground and trip over my own feet. These are the kids or the individuals that go to catch a ball. They think their body's over here. Their body's actually here, and the ball hits them in the head. So we're talking about those individuals. Mm-hmm. You add thoughts on clumsiness.
Oh, yeah. In fact, that was funny because met with a potential client in just the last 2 weeks, and it's an individual that's coming for learning issues, right? Struggling with, well, actually diagnosed with dyslexia. And as she and I went through some exercises, I asked her, I said, are you right or left-handed? And she's like, And I said, well, which hand do you pick up the pencil with? Mind you, she's 15 and successful. Okay. An A and B student.
I think it's so important to throw that out there. We don't always, we work with a lot of very successful people, and then we have people we work with that are really struggling, but we see both. We see both. Exactly. And so anyway, so I said, okay, I'd like you to pick up the pencil and you confirm for yourself which side you're gonna. And so, as it is, yes, she was right-handed. But it was so powerful for me to be able to share with her. And I think I might have mentioned this before too, right? That there was a time that I did not know my right from my left consistently. And that I, highly uncoordinated, coordinated person. Absolutely.
Right. And it had to do with directionality. And that also manifested itself in my inability to feel comfortable speaking on the phone. Right.
That is huge that you bring that up. I work with so many people, like grown adults, executives. They're like, I'm scared to talk on the phone.
Right. And it has everything to do with working memory and the ability to hold yourself present and to find your thoughts, right? To be able to manage all of those things. You're asking someone to do multiple steps. It's interesting. Just in our little discussion, we've touched on so many different topics, right? But I think that each and every one of them could be in and of itself a 15-20 minute discussion, at least, about what things actually look like. What do these struggles look like? What are some real life experiences of them? Right. And then what do we do? Right. Well, what do we do? Is there something you can do? Right. And if there is something you can do, how does that change your world?
Well, in the case of, so like bringing up the challenges around physical and clumsiness, I can remember being, I think I was 9 years old, and trying out to play softball. And I can remember my coach throwing the softball for me to hit it with a bat. And I was the kid, you know, everybody else went. He got to me. He was a wonderful man. He meant well. He had amazing patience. But like for 20 minutes, he was throwing and I was missing, and he was throwing and I was missing. And of course, you know, all the other kids are like, oh God, you know, it was horrible. It was a horrible memory for me. So in that instance, you know, had I had a sound device, or had I had somebody that explained to me about my focus and the fact that it was out of balance with my physical body, I wouldn't have had to stood there for 20 minutes and went through that.
So did you notice in that it really was not I'm not able to do it, but I lacked the confidence in that moment to complete the task?
Yeah, well, and then the other thing was just that where I thought my body was and where I was swinging was not, I was in the wrong place.
Right.
But I can tell you, and I know you have these stories as well. So I went on, and my father had a friend that pitched softball, and he said, you might be a good pitcher. And that gentleman literally showed me how to hold the softball. He had me throw twice. I got that rhythm. I got that picture in my mind, and I was spot on. And I was the pitcher for the team for probably, gosh, I'm losing track here, Kelley, but probably for like 8 or 9 years, and was the primary pitcher on the team. And people would be like, wow, you must really practice a lot. And I never did. I got the picture to click. Everything was in place, and I could do that. So you see that in the people that we work with, you see those inconsistencies, and those inconsistencies actually are clues to having a learning difference.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. That they, and the fact that, well, in your case, right, where you were able to find, really talking about being in the zone, you knew exactly what it needed to be, and you knew how to repeat it for that situation. Right. And so pitching is a specific situation, right? You're not going to go and pitch in a classroom, right? You're going to be on the mound in a situation, you know exactly what it is you're doing at that time, right? So it's a matter of taking the confidence that you created because of the picture that you created, taking that confidence and then transferring it to every situation that you go into, right? And really, I don't care what your thinking style is, that's something everybody needs. And that there are very few people that can hold that confidence and to know it no matter what they're doing. Right. And I feel like the more we practice and the more we're ready to put ourselves in a position to move through life with that type of confidence, right, the better we get at everything that we're doing. And I love the fact that my clients get that. It's the coolest thing ever. It's like, wow, look at you. And they're like, yeah, look at me, right?
That is the greatest thing. I mean, that's the amazing thing, to work with somebody that has struggled with self-esteem their entire life, no matter how old they are, and then have them make the connection. I really am smart. I really can do. I really can do all of this. I mean, we're both like,
yeah, exactly. It's the best thing ever, right? And then that would be the goal, or at least that's why I do what I do, because I want that for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And so I always feel like I'm at a risk of generalizing to say, you know, well, you need this. But in the end, we all need to know how to be focused. We all need that. We need to know how to be focused, how to be present, and to be intentional about everything that we do. And so it starts, right? It starts from here I am, right? Being that bring me here, right? It starts from there, but then we have to follow certain steps to build the habits, just like your coach, okay, got you present, and then you built the habit. It didn't take very long because it was something that you could put to muscle memory, and you were able to tie that together. And
Yes.
other things take a little longer because we have lots of things that want to pull us away, right? So completing the task is intentionality. You have to be intentional and you have to follow it through, right? But you have to get started. Let's get there first. You have to pull through, and keep going in that same way.
Well, and Kelley, in this episode, we agreed. So for the listening audience, we have these conversations with each other, and today we said we're just going to hit record, and we're going to let ourselves be who we are, and we're going to jump all over the place. I always get this picture of a big mind map, and Kelley and I are doing our mind mapping, and we're letting our brains just. This is how we brainstorm. This is how we have the conversations. We're going to take this information and we're going to get more specific, and we'll have podcasts specific to the topics.
So thank you for joining Tina and I in our exploration today of all things, anything, right? Of where we work and the issues that many of our clients and we struggle with. As we close up today, we just really encourage you, if there's something that we've touched on that you would like more information on, if there's a direction you would like us to take this podcast, we would be happy to go down that direction. Otherwise, you're stuck with us and what we have to offer. We thank you again, though, for joining us. You can find our information below, and we encourage any and all questions. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.